Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel, Aarti Chawla. Go ahead and subscribe. We are going to read a lot of books and a lot of other educational videos. And if you like, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you get notified. We are at chapter 2 of the book, Don't Believe in Everything You Think. So let me just open the book. Second. I am just opening and also checking if we are live. These are live sessions. Let me just check. All right, I think we are live. All right, let's start. Chapter 2, the root cause of all suffering. One who looks around him is intelligent. One who looks within him is wise. Macho hona livayo. Okay. We live in a world of thought, not reality. Sydney Banks once said, thought is not reality, yet it is through thought that our realities are created. Each of us lives through our own perceptions of the world, which are vastly different from the other person right next to us. An example of this is that you could be sitting in a coffee shop having a quarter-life existential crisis, completely stressed out of your mind about how you have no idea what you're doing with your life when it seems like everyone else has theirs together while the person next to you is happily enjoying their freshly brewed drink while peacefully people watching. You both are in the same exact coffee shop, smelling the same aroma, surrounded by the same strangers, but how the world looks at both of you couldn't be more different. Many of us go through the exact same events or are in the same location at the same time, yet we are having completely different experiences of our world. Here's another example of how we live in a world of thought and not reality. If you walk up 100 different people and ask each of them what money means to them, how many different answers do you think you'll get? Close to 100 different answers? Money is technically the same thing, but it means something different to each person. Money could mean time, freedom, opportunities, security, peace of mind, or it could mean evil, greed, and the reason why people commit crimes. For now, I'm going to get into which one is right or wrong. Hint is, there is no right or wrong answer, but that's for a different chapter. Another illustration of this concept is as follows. If you survey 100 different people and ask each of them what they think of our current president, how many different answers do you think you'll get? Even though it is the exact same person we are talking about, we will get 100 different answers because most people live in their own thoughts and perceptions of the world. The meaning or thinking we give to an event is what determines how we ultimately feel about it. Such an important sentence. The meaning or thinking we give an event is what determines how we ultimately feel about it. That meaning or thinking is the filter through which we see life from then on. Because of this, we live through a perception of reality, not in the reality itself. Reality is that the event has happened with no meaning, thinking, or interpretation of its own. Any meaning or thinking we give to the event is on us, and that is how our perception of reality is created. This is how our experience of life is created from the inside out. It's not about the events that happen in our lives, but our interpretation of them, which causes us to feel good or bad about something. This is how people in third world countries can be happier than the people in the first world countries, and people in the first world countries can be more miserable than people in the third world countries. Our feelings do not come from external events, but from our own thinking about the events. Therefore, we can only ever feel what we are thinking. Let's hypothetically say that you really hate your job and it causes you an enormous amount of stress, anxiety, and frustration. It pains you to even set foot in the building where you work, and just thinking about your job makes you furious. When you are thinking about your job, you're just sitting there on a sofa and with your family watching a TV show together, but you are fuming at the thought of your job. Everyone else is having a good time except you. In this moment, everyone else in your family is having a different experience of life than you. Even though the same event is happening, just the thought of work created a whole different perception of reality, even though you're not physically at work. If it were true that external events cause us to feel the way we feel inside, then you should be a happy camper in your living room watching a funny TV show with your family every single time you do this activity, but that's not the case. How you may be saying that you are only feeling this way because an external event, your job, is causing you feel stressed and anxious. To that, I'll ask the question, is it absolutely true that every single person feels the exact same way about the job they are working in? Two different people can be doing the exact same job, but will have completely different experiences of that job. It can be the most amazing experience and a dream job for one person, but be another person's worst nightmare and living hell. The only difference between one person and the other is how they think about their job, which determines how they ultimately feel about it. Now, let's go back to the original scenario of you hypothetically hating your job. Remember how much stress, anxiety, and frustration it causes you when you think about it? Let's do a quick thought experiment about that by answering the question below. Who would you be without that thought that you hated your job? Take a minute to see what comes up for you and don't move on until you do that. If you don't overthink it and truly let the answer surface from within you without any thought, you will most likely feel and be happy, peaceful, free, and light. Without our usual thinking about the particular event and or thing, our experience of it is completely alters. This is how we live in a world of thought, not reality, and how our perception of reality is created from the inside out through our own thinking. With this new understanding, you've just uncovered the cause of our human psychological suffering. The root cause of our suffering is our own thinking. Now, before you throw this book across the room and light it on fire, I'm not saying that this all is in our head and that it isn't real. Our perception of reality is very real. We will feel what we think, and our feelings are real. That is completely undeniable. However, our thinking will look like an inevitable, unchangeable reality to us until we begin feeling how our reality is created. If we know that we can only ever feel what we are thinking, then we know that we can change our feelings by changing our thinking. Thus, we can change our experience of life by knowing that it comes from our own thinking. And if that is true, then we are ever only one thought away from experiencing something different and transforming our entire lives at any moment through a state of no thought. In short, the moment we stop thinking is when our happiness begins. A young monk and an empty boat, a Zen story about how thinking is the cause of our own suffering. A long time ago, a young Zen monk was living in a small monastery that was located in a forest which was near a small lake. The monastery was occupied by a few senior monks, while the rest were newcomers and still had much to learn. The monks had many obligations in the monastery, but one of the most important ones was their daily routine where they had to sit down, close their eyes, and meditate in silence for hours at a time. After each meditation, they had to report their progress to their mentor. The young monk had difficulty staying focused during this meditation practice for a variety of reasons, which made him very mad. After the young monk reported his progress, or better said, lack of it, to his mentor, the elder monk asked the young monk a simple question that had a hidden lesson. Do you know what is really making you angry? The young monk replied, well, usually as soon as I close my eyes and begin to meditate, there is someone moving around and I can't focus. I get agitated that someone is disturbing me even though they know that I am meditating. How can they not be more considerate? And then when I close my eyes again and try to focus, a cat or a small animal might brush past and disturb me again. By this point, even when the wind blows and the tree branches make noise, I get angry. If that is not enough, the birds keep on chirping and I can't seem to find any peace in this place. The elder monk simply pointed out to his pupil, I see that you become angrier with each interruption you encounter. This is exactly the opposite of what is the point of your task when meditating. You should find a way not to get angry with people or animals or any other thing around that disturbs you during your task. After their consultation, the young monk went out of the monastery and looked around to find a place that would be quieter so that he could meditate peacefully. He found such a place at the shore of the lake that is nearby. He brought his mat, sat down, and started meditating. But soon a flock of birds splashed down in the lake near where the monk was meditating. Hearing their noise, the monk opened his eyes to see what was going on. Although the bank of the lake was quieter than the monastery, there were still things that would disturb his peace, and he again got angry. Even though he didn't find the peace as he was looking for, he kept returning to the lake. Then only on one day, the monk saw a boat tied at the end of a small fire. And right then an idea hit him. Why don't I take the boat, row it down to the middle of the lake and meditate there? In the middle of the lake, there will be nothing to disturb me. He rowed the boat to the middle of the lake and started meditating. As he expected, there was nothing in the middle of the lake to disturb him, and he was able to meditate the whole day. At the end of the day, he returned to the monastery. This continued for a couple of days, and the monk was thrilled that he had finally found a place to meditate in peace. He hadn't felt angry and could continue the meditation practice in a calmer manner. On the third day, the monk sat in the boat, rowed it to the middle of the lake, and started meditating again. A few minutes later, he heard some splashing of water and felt that the boat was rocking. He started getting upset and that even in the middle of the lake, there was someone or something disturbing him. When he opened his eyes, he saw a boat heading straight towards him. He shouted, steer your boat away or else you will hit my boat. But the other boat kept coming straight at him and was just a few feet away. He yelled again, but nothing changed, and so the incoming boat hit the monk's boat. Now he was furious. He screamed, who are you and why have you hit my boat in the middle of the vast lake? There was no answer. This made the young monk even angrier. He stood up to see who was in the other boat, and to his surprise, he found there was no one in the boat. The boat had probably drifted along in the breeze and had bumped into the monk's boat. The monk found his anger dissipated. It was just an empty boat. There was no one to get angry on. At that moment, he remembered his mentor's questions. Do you know what is really making you angry? And then wondered, it's not the other people, situations, or circumstances. It's not the empty boat, but my reaction to it that causes my anger. All the people or situations that make me upset and angry are just like the empty boat. They don't have the power to make me angry without my reaction. The monk then rowed the boat back to the shore He returned to the monastery and started meditating along with other monks. There were still noises and disturbances around, but the monk treated them as empty boat and continued to meditate peacefully. When the elder monk saw the difference, he simply said to the young monk, I see you have found what is really making you angry and overcome that. Beautiful. I just love this. All right, so this gets us to the end of chapter 2. See you in the next video for chapter 3. Bye-bye.